Happy Thursday, Central Georgia. You are one day closer to your weekend and an extended weekend as we go into Labor Day and round out the month of August. So obviously all eyes are on this weekend. Is that weather going to be conducive for some outdoor plans, maybe some outdoor watch parties for your favorite college football team? We'll answer all those questions here in your extended forecast. First things first, we'll take a look at our headlines, I do believe, in just 1 second now. Increasing rain chances as we go into the weekend. I know that's probably the last thing that you want to hear, but note the second line that we do have. On and off showers and storms. So that means it's not going to be a continuous washout all afternoon long. We'll go over the latest model run of Future View here in this extended forecast. Get a better idea about Saturday specifically. I do believe that most of you will remain dry throughout Thursday and Friday before we get into Saturday and Sunday, which do have our best rain chances. We'll talk about why that is. But the main thing is still hanging out in the 80s. We will have below average temperatures for the next week ahead into well at the end of next week as well. So we'll keep a close eye on when those 90s are going to return, because I would bet a strong amount of money that they will. We know obviously when you get a bit of a false fall forecast like we've had in play for the last couple of days, it isn't going to be very long lived, and we haven't even transitioned into the official fall season yet. That will be coming up on September 22nd. So we still have a ways to go, and we know we hold on to summer for quite a long time here in Central Georgia. So this is a bit of a better image than what we saw all across this morning around the quad view. You can actually get a glimpse of some blue sky in areas like downtown Dublin, downtown Macon. Still predominantly cloudy down in Warner Robins and at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. But the cloud cover kept our temperatures a couple of degrees warmer than what we did see yesterday. So it hasn't been necessarily the worst thing in the world, and it also has kind of contributed to a bit of a slower warm up. However, your temperature values are already somewhere in the low to mid 70s, but that's honestly maybe about 5 to 7 degrees warmer than what they started out at, somewhere in the mid 60s, maybe the upper 60s. You are seeing some warmer temperatures farther down to the south, and that's because those were the first areas to kind of receive the break in the cloud cover, our southernmost counties. So you'll see 80 in Cordele, 78 in Rochelle, 81 over in Vidalia. So that's our warmest temperature we have here in Central Georgia. We'll talk about how that shapes up across the eastern half of the United States. But there is a lot of cooler air farther up to the north and the northwest. That's not just because that's kind of been the general trend over recently. That's because most of the cloud cover has been farther to the north this morning. So 81 here in Vidalia. How does that shape up across all of these cities in the eastern United States? 83 in Jacksonville, 83 in Orlando, along with Houston, Dallas, and Laredo over in Texas, and then 84 in New Orleans. New Orleans really has been the warmest of the bunch virtually all week long. That front hasn't made its passage through the very bottom of Louisiana. But there's still widespread green to the north of us. Temperatures still in the 70s, and then obviously getting into the upper 60s the farther north that you travel. 62 in Indianapolis this morning. That may be attributed to some rain-cooled air, but also something that I did notice yesterday, and I meant to talk about it. We're actually seeing some shades of blue over here in the Rocky Mountains, indicating that those areas over there in Colorado, getting into Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, the Rocky Mountains are starting to feel a bit of the chill over there. So when you get temperatures in the blue, that's dropping down into the 30s, maybe even into the 40s a tad bit, but none of that's in store here for the foreseeable future. We have a long ways to go before we'll be welcoming in some 40s into our temperature map. Here's a look at your dew point temperatures, and this is kind of the story right now, and this is going to be a big reason why we see increasing rain chances. The humidity levels are going to dictate our forecasts. Even some patchy areas of the dark green shade. So we have had a very pleasant forecast. It has been very dry, portions of no color, and anything that you have seen in the way of dew point temperatures have been in the lower 60s. We've seen a steady uptick in those numbers, somewhere in the mid to upper 60s now, and some patchy areas where we probably have some dew point temperatures of 70 degrees. So that's going to be a bit more conducive for sprouting some rain chances as we go into the afternoon hours. So starting to see this dark green shade push farther and farther up to the north. Will it be widespread across Central Georgia is the big question this weekend, because if it is, that's going to really enhance our rain chances, but that's also going to come with its fair share of rain in the forecast. Here's a look at your feels like numbers. Those dew point temperatures still not quite to the threshold to where they really start influencing the feels like numbers, but you can see some numbers that are maybe a degree or two warmer than what their actual temperature is. Feels like 82 in Unadilla and Cordele, along with Vidalia, 83 in McRae, and 81 down in Rochelle. Again, our southernmost counties got the breaks in cloud cover a little bit earlier, and they did warm up a bit quicker than the rest of the bunch. Winds and wind gusts coming mainly out of the east and northeast right now. Relatively calm, maybe an occasional breeze up to 3 to 6 miles per hour. Probably not even really noticeable whatsoever. The winds shouldn't really be a factor throughout today. So talking about yesterday's almanac, we were talking about the potential record-breaking low temperature, and like I said, we officially recorded 58 degrees at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. That's 1 degree above the record set back in 1952. So the 73-year-old record lives to see 74 years, and we'll see maybe around this time next year if we can get another false fall and we can actually start to flirt with that record-breaking temperature again. But 84 for a high temperature, so that's good enough for 7 degrees below average this time of year, nearly 20 degrees below the record high back in 1954. And once again, with the dry atmosphere that we've had, we haven't been talking about the rainfall totals because we haven't received anything in the way of rain. So yesterday was another day without rainfall, but even with about 3 or 4 days in a row without receiving rain, we're still over 7 inches above where we should be this time of year. Give you an idea of these dreary stretches that we've had during the month of August. They've definitely produced some pretty substantial rainfall amounts. Sunrise 7:06 yesterday, sunset was at 8:05, so continuing to get closer to an 8 p.m. sunset and then eventually pre-8 p.m. sunset as the days are going to get shorter and shorter once we transition into fall and eventually winter. So even though our temperatures were a little bit warmer this morning, it was still a pleasant morning. All numbers were still in the 60s at one point in time. That's below average this time of year. And then as we go into this afternoon, the biggest change between today and yesterday is not going to be in the high temperature department. 85 for a high temperature, pretty similar to the last couple of days. Partly cloudy skies, but it is the very minuscule rain chance that we have. Like I said, we've seen that slight uptick in humidity. It might be a little bit more conducive for at least some scattered light showers, maybe even a drizzle at times. Overall, it's not going to be too substantial if you do catch anything in the way of rain. So let's talk about your heat indices today. Going to feel like the low and mid 80s virtually all afternoon long, starting at the midday hour, continuing into 7 p.m. And we're still feeling like the 70s as we go into the 9 p.m. hour, right there just past sunset. It's going to be another pleasant afternoon. These temperatures may hover around a degree or two above what the actual temperature is. We may see more influence on this graphic as we go into the weekend. So here's your satellite and radar picture, not entirely empty. We actually do already see some light showers right here on the western end of Peach County, pretty close to Fort Valley, the eastern edge of Taylor County, another cluster of some lighter showers just to the west of Thomaston and Upson County. So as we continue to kind of see the motion of whatever cloud cover comes in, it's going to be coming in from the west and the northwest and moving across central Georgia from left to right. So you can see that the cloud cover getting some occasional breaks in that as of right now. But along with that, we're going to have those very isolated shower chances as we continue into the afternoon and into the evening hours. Here's a look, or a big picture view, I guess I should say, of the entire state of Georgia. Nothing really going on, but like I said, the cloud cover was present in the northern half of the state today, and that continues to break apart. But there's plenty more where that came from. Over here to the west, there are widespread rain chances back over here into Mississippi, but will they come to fruition here in central Georgia? Right now, just looking at the general motion of everything, this does look to be kind of moving down towards the southeast. Keep that in mind as we take a look at the latest run of Future View, because I was talking about our south and southwesternmost counties yesterday have a greater chance of seeing some rain as we go into tomorrow, and that's when all of this over to the west would be impacting us. Flash flood warning right there on the county, or not the county, excuse me, the state line of Arkansas and Mississippi, giving you an idea that they have had no shortage of rain over there. So they're entering a very dreary stretch of weather like we had present as of last weekend and maybe about 2 weeks ago here in the month of August. So continuing into this afternoon, you're just going to see these light green dots pop up. And of course, it might just be a steady shower that you do come across, but it's going to be very, very localized and isolated in nature. I have about a 20% chance of rain today, which is not overly impressive, but it is more impressive than what we've had the last 2 days, which has been zilch, zero, nada, no rain chances whatsoever. Going into this evening, more so the nighttime hours, I guess, by about 10 p.m., passing cloud cover all throughout the day, and it does look like some overcast skies are going to try to build in during the overnight hours, along with still holding on to some rain chances. So we're still going to have the humidity. The temperatures aren't really playing as much of a role in popping up these scattered rain chances. It looks like 6 a.m. we could wake up to maybe a cluster of some showers in a select few areas for the early morning commute or just the general morning commute tomorrow. But this has kind of stayed put in the same location. It was a little bit down to the southwest of us as of the model run previous to this. So it does look like we're going to try to hold on to at least a couple of scattered showers through the morning hours on Friday as the cloud cover tries to break apart. We go into 5 p.m. tomorrow, then we start to see that cluster of rain over to the west of us that I was just talking about back over into Mississippi. That's all over in Alabama. It is a lot more widely scattered. Here in central Georgia, it still looks like we're really dodging the rain in most locations, but we could see a couple of scattered showers enter the forecast. And I do believe that we'll see some moisture content, maybe even a little bit higher tomorrow, but Friday should kind of be more of the same story as today, maybe just a slightly more impressive rain chance. Overall, partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies, your occasional scattered light shower, maybe even a pocket of steady rain, nothing too substantial in the way of rain. But now let's go into Saturday morning. So this was a big question mark as of the latest run of Future View because 6 a.m. on Saturday was looking mightily messy all across central Georgia. So right now it looks like some light showers could be in the forecast as maybe you're waking up very early and still hinting at more widely scattered rain. I do believe that there are going to be areas that miss out on some rainfall, but some pockets of steady, even some heavy rain. I wouldn't even throw it out of the realm of possibility that some thunderstorms could be present, but they're going to be very low-end thunderstorms. You'll hear a couple rumbles of thunder. The rain may get heavy for just a little bit. Nothing worth worrying about. We're not forecasting anything in the way of severe weather. Now we go into Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. This is going to be a prime slate that I know many of you are going to be paying attention to because the dogs are kicking off at 3:30 in the afternoon. Maybe wanting to have a bit of an outdoor watch party. Maybe think again. It might just be best to have your plans indoors, but of course, don't go canceling your plans because of scattered rain chances. Like I said, there's still a good chance that you do miss out on some rain. All of this mainly looks to be of the lighter rain nature, and conditions do improve as we go into the nighttime hours. This is 8 p.m. on Saturday. Not only is rain getting out of the picture, but cloud cover is beginning to fizzle out, and then it's kind of sticking around into the picture. Like I said, on and off cloud cover, on and off rain throughout the course of the next couple of days. Bit of a gloomy and a bit of a messy forecast, but overall this is going to do a very good job at keeping your temperatures a little bit lower on Saturday. So increasing rain chances between today and tomorrow. Low temperatures somewhere in the low to mid 60s. There's a steady uptick into Friday because we should have more cloud cover present a bit earlier into the overnight hours tonight. 86 for a high temperature tomorrow, but then down to 81 on Saturday. So we see that high temperature go down, but we continue to see the morning low temperature go up just a tad. That's what typically happens when you have widespread cloud cover or even rain that lingers into the overnight hours. It doesn't allow for much of a temperature variation. So your morning low temperature and your afternoon high temperature going to be closer together in nature. This is only about a 13-degree temperature spread on Saturday, but a more impressive rain chance at about 40%. And obviously I put the thunderstorm icon right there because I do think the rain is mainly going to be of the light shower variety today and tomorrow. But going into Saturday, we do have the possibility of maybe a low-end thunderstorm like I was mentioning. So afternoon high temperatures just bouncing around. It's all going to be dependent on how much cloud cover and how much rain you have present. So if we get some ample clearing in the atmosphere, more peaks of sunshine on Sunday, we could warm up into the mid 80s. But if we have more clouds present, more rain present, then it looks like we're going to see numbers somewhere in the lower 80s. Regardless of what your temperature is, it's still going to be below average by a good amount. 86, the warmest temperature that I have forecasted. Your average high, 91 degrees this time of year. So obviously still a good at least 5 degrees below average. But if we only hit 81 on Saturday, nearly 10 degrees below average. So 5 to 10 degrees below average all weekend long thanks to the cloud cover and rain. So that's a pretty good thing. However, your morning low temperatures are going to see the opposite impact. Again, when you have cloud cover present in the mornings, it's trapping all of that solar radiation that you received the day before at the surface. So what that radiation does is trying to go back up into the atmosphere, and obviously the cloud deck is reflecting it back down to the surface, just makes the surface a tad bit warmer than the day before. But overall, every day does look to be below average too, but not by quite as much. Average low 69 degrees this time of year. We could flirt with the upper 60s, and of course the select few areas may not dip below the 70s, especially like Vidalias and Cordials and Rochelle's, those areas that hover a little bit warmer, but it should have a pretty pleasant feel in the morning hours. And we're going to keep that pleasant feel around as we go into the afternoon time frame as well. Here's a look at the Muggy meter. You can see that steady uptick in the humidity levels between today and tomorrow and into Saturday and Sunday, when the dew point temperatures should be at their highest. Given the trend that we're already seeing, this dot right here for Thursday, I would say that most areas are probably a little bit higher than that, somewhere with dew point temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. I wouldn't doubt that we see a couple 70s pop back up on that dew point temperatures map as we go into this weekend, but that's why Saturday and Sunday are going to be your most impressive rain chances, because we'll have more moisture in the atmosphere to work with. But there is good news, because Sunday into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we dropped those dew point temperatures back down, and it looks like we could have another stretch where we're sitting in the comfortable range and we're dealing with those shaded the areas that don't have any shaded color, maybe some shaded areas of light green. We should have some drier air that looks to be reinforced back into the forecast as we go into the midweek next week. So let's take a look at what the long-range models are having to say about it. Your rain chances aren't looking as impressive on Sunday as of right now. Again, we'll get this within view of our short-range future view here this time tomorrow, so we'll be able to plan out at least the first 3 days of your 4-day weekend or your first 2 days of your 3-day weekend, however you do view it. 6 p.m. on Sunday, there's still enough moisture around, scattered rain chances that we should have in the forecast for Sunday, and that continues into Monday. So this is going to be a big day that many of you may be having plans to travel out of town. This is what you could be heading back into, some occasional showers that are at least providing you with a bit of a free car wash, washing off all those bugs that you've attracted onto your windshield as you make your way out of town. But 6 p.m. on Monday doesn't look to be the cleanest picture. Tuesday actually looks to be our first sign of clearing. And then the GFS is hinting at some rain re-entering the forecast and the widespread nature by Wednesday. This is just what one model run is saying. Again, if we have that drier air present across central Georgia that we were seeing on the Muggy meter just one graphic ago, it's really going to inhibit the rain chances. So I'm not quite sure if I buy this. We would need some kind of driving force or a frontal boundary to drive through in order to lead to some widespread rain chances in light of a dry atmosphere, because along with that, anything that's organized in the way of rain is going to obviously be a pretty humid atmosphere. So that would have to push itself into central Georgia and really give us a different atmosphere to work with. But by the time we get to next Thursday, rain chances are still looking very, very slim, looking like lots of clearing here in the southeast after it could be a bit of a gloomy and a bit of a messy weekend for your 3-day weekend, or Labor Day weekend, excuse me. So post-tropical storm Fernand now. Fernand just continues to chug along, and I don't know how it continues to have a lifespan here in the North Atlantic where the ocean waters are a whole lot cooler. Just maintaining winds of 45 miles per hour. We're not even seeing anything really definitive on the satellite imagery right now. It just looks like a couple of thin clouds out there in the North Atlantic. Pressure has gone up to 1,009 millibars as opposed to 1,007 millibars. Overall, this is still a very weak system moving east-northeast at 23 miles per hour. So when you get into the higher latitudes, you go farther up to the north, that's when these tropical systems can start to pick up some speed in nature. But 23 miles per hour, that's definitely booking it. You can see it's going to just continue in this direction over towards Western Europe, but it should dissipate as it does move just north of these islands out here, just off the coast of Spain and Portugal. I'll have to do some geography research about what islands specifically those are, but Friday at 6 a.m. maintaining 40 mile per hour winds. It's already a post-tropical storm because it's crossed that latitude line right now. It still does have tropical storm force winds of 45 miles per hour, but post-tropical indicating that yes, Fernand is probably going to continue to weaken over the next 24 hours, and then it will very likely be non-existent. But we have been telling you that, okay, the tropics are very, very quiet as of right now because of a lot of Saharan dust off the west coast of Africa. And you can still see faint shades of that brown right now, but we do have another area outlined, a tropical wave moving off the west coast of Africa. Only a 20% chance of developing over the course of the next week, has no chance of developing over the next 2 days. So it's got to run into a more conducive atmosphere in order to get its act together, start to organize, start to circulate. But you can see that this yellow shaded area, obviously continuing to the west, the general direction that these trade winds do blow it. And it's going to continue over maybe near the Caribbean, maybe take a similar path to Aaron, take a similar path to Ferdinand, but we'll have to continue to see where the chances of development do lie with this. There is a lot of convection along the equator and getting off the west coast of Africa. Nothing really is trying to get its act together, but maybe somewhere in here we're starting to see this might be a potential area that moves into this yellow shaded area. It's going to be another week and a half, 2 weeks before this potentially would impact us. Nothing to worry about, nothing to fret about. We'll continue to keep you updated, and especially if you tune into this extended forecast day by day, every day that I'm here at 10:30, I always will provide you with the tropics outlook. And then if it is something that is of worry and that we need to talk about, then we'll start doing more frequent tropics updates, and we'll continue to keep you posted on those. So here's your 7-day forecast, highlighted by, yes, 80s. That is the big story. Cloud cover and rain chances are going to keep your temperatures down below average for not only this weekend, not only the next 5 days as we go into September, but your entire 7-day forecast. And in fact, you will actually see some pretty chilly, maybe chilly, whatever you classify that as, but still some low 60s for your lows on Tuesday and Wednesday morning. And along with that would be some drier air that we were talking about on the muggy meter. So that does make sense. And afternoon high temperatures, they do start to warm up, but remember the past 2 days, we've had high temperatures in the mid 80s. So we do kind of just get back to normal. It does look like right now. I've maintained a 20% chance of rain. Obviously, if I go according to what the latest model run said, then I wouldn't throw a rain chance here on Tuesday. I would have one on Wednesday, but that's really far out right now. Right now, the main focus is for this 3-day weekend, and you will see the increasing rain chances, which I do believe Saturday has the best chance of receiving something in the way of rain. It may just be a light drizzle. It may be a steady shower. It may be a low-wind thunderstorm with some pretty heavy rain for just a little bit. Whatever it is, just keep the rain gear handy. It is better to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Obviously, that's kind of the saying that I always say when the rain chances are not definite, but we do have some rain chances on the horizon. I know it's a big weekend for outdoor plans, and rain is the last thing you want. I'm just a messenger, number one. But number two, like I said, if you have the rain gear handy, hopefully it's just going to be a short-lived shower. Doesn't look like anything is necessarily totally widespread all over central Georgia, but it does look like Saturday, at least in the first half of the day, would probably be a pretty decent rain chance. And then as we go into the evening and nighttime hours, those rain chances do look to fizzle out. So hopefully we can get a nice end to your Saturday. And for any plans that you have to say, watch Clemson LSU, watch any of those nighttime college football games, the weather will be a little bit more conducive. But the better rain chances have resulted in a bit of a cool down. So 81 for a high temperature on Saturday. That would not feel bad whatsoever. Of course, we'll have more moisture in the forecast and may make that number feel a tad bit warmer, but it would only be feeling like the numbers that we have present right now, maybe feeling like 85, 86 degrees. So the 80s are a common theme, and we will see some fluctuation. We'll see maybe the morning lows go up just a tad bit, 68 on Saturday morning, then back down to the mid 60s, and eventually down into the low 60s. So it's going to have a pleasant feel each and every morning that you do have a number with a 6 in front of it. And that is still going to be a cooler than average stretch of weather. I wouldn't go quite as far to classify it as a false fall. If we had any day that was feeling like false fall, it was definitely yesterday morning with temperatures in the upper 50s and the mid 50s. So increasing rain chances into Saturday. Sunday, still a pretty impressive rain chance as of right now, 30%, but the long-range models weren't really hinting at widespread rain like what we did see Saturday. Again, future view will give us a better idea about this once we go into tomorrow. And plan on some rain being in the near vicinity. If you're making your way back into town on Labor Day itself on Monday, first day of September, meteorological fall starting. So the meteorology seasons kind of go in increments of 3 months as you go throughout the general idea of the season. So September 22nd will be the first official day of the fall season, and that's kind of based on the Earth's position and the Earth's orbit around the sun, the tilt of the Earth. So obviously once we start to get into the fall season, the Earth's tilt is getting a little bit farther away. So obviously the North Pole would be farther away from the sun once we get into that time frame. That's what the official change in seasons is based on. But the meteorology seasons, September, October, and November are going to be meteorological fall. Then once you get into December, January, February, that's going to be winter. March, April, May, that's going to be spring. You kind of get my gist. So obviously the beginning of those meteorological seasons will fall on the first of the month. So you kind of get the gist. Below average temperatures, they'll vary a little bit each and every day. All in all, the highs are in the 80s, the lows are in the 60s. You have a shot at rain each and every day. You may not see anything in the way of rain, but just make sure you keep the rain jacket and the umbrella handy each and every day in case you do come across a stray shower or maybe even a storm. So that will do it for your extended forecast today, and we'll be back here tomorrow at 10:30 giving you a weekend preview. We'll be talking about some specific graphics for all of your weekend events, including football games, including football Friday night, and we'll fine-tune that forecast as you head into your first 3-day weekend of kind of the beginning of the year for some people, obviously the school year perspective, but many people getting back in the regular routine, taking their kids to school, picking their kids up from school. So it's kind of the beginning of the year in some form of aspect, but obviously it is the month of August. And I think that is probably my cue to hop off because we have just been talking for a long time and going on random tangents. But like I said, 60s and 80s all week long, decent rain chances each and every day. Have the umbrella